Permaculture is sustainable. It's about sustainability. Sustainable needs to be defined clearly. A sustainable system produces more energy than it consumes, enough in surplus to maintain and replace its components and the system itself over its lifetime. Therefore, if you're looking for a sustainable system, as an example, living systems, natural systems, systems fueled by the energy of the sun, the source of all life energy on Earth, the sun, is the most sustainable system. And there we can find models. There we can look for examples. There we can define true resources, living resources that are renewable, endlessly renewable, as long as the sun continues to shine. We don't have to worry about the renewability of our resources, because the depletion of energy, the spent energy, the entropy, energy that's been contained that is spent, is actually enhanced by living systems when we design to trap the energy of the sun. We're very much about resources defined in a natural way, yields, as in yields of a system, so that we can plan very long-term yields and very fast yields from a system. We are designers of systems that mimic nature, systems that run on the same patterns as nature. And when you look at natural systems, they're extremely diverse. Diversity in nature links to stability. Stability creates fertility, and fertility gives us that designed productivity. Diversity is not just a collection, though. Diversity is about interaction, interactivity. The interaction between the diverse elements gives us that ecosystemic, that life web type stability. Our themes in design very much focus on those models, so that our system, our teacher, is the natural system. Stacking diversity into systems stores and creates an energy surplus for us in design. But we don't just stack in the physical sense, we actually look at stacking in time. Time stacking systems through succession. Looking at succession in natural systems, the reparative mechanisms, the mechanics of nature, if you like. Those systems can be replicated, but they can actually be improved, and improving on nature is something that is fine if we're actually in a positive mode and we're benefiting nature's reparative functions. We can stack in space and in time, and that's a really exciting concept. I know it's full of fungi. If I just pull out a branch here, there's all kinds of fungi. Everything's going back down to soil. It's just rotten. 6 months ago it was a tree. We've purposely put it back down to the soil. Its job's done. Time stacked out. Produced mulch for 6 years. Been cut and mulched and dropped and produced, and then it's decided it's finished, job done. And before it's even hit the ground, the fungi's breaking it down. So I'd say if I gave that a bit of a kick, it'd go down right now. So I'm just going to do that, and we're just going to put it on the ground. So permaculture systems are very much about polycultural systems, systems that include many different elements and many different elements stacked together that don't just function at one time, but extend their functions over time. So these systems we have to learn how to design. We have to look at those concepts and say, that's how nature works. how do we then improve on those functions? And that's very much permaculture. Yield through diversity is not about trophy hunter mentality, about what's the biggest crop we get over the species that we choose. It's not about monoculture where we have one crop, one field, one yield at one time. Permaculture design is about energy efficiency. So it's very much about how much energy do you put in and how much energy do you get out. So how much effort do you put into creating a yield? Through all the interactions between the diverse elements, through all the stacking of time of yield over an area, we end up with a very efficient system. We have multiple yield over multiple time with very low inputs and an extremely efficient output. So here we are next to a water system, which is also next to a food forest, which is also next to a productive bamboo system. We're in a polyculturally designed farm where there are multiple yields almost every moment of the day, every day of the year. The efficiency of yield over the area in relation to the energy input is extremely high because it benefits nature, because it benefits the landscape exactly the way that natural systems do. This is how you come up with good design. It's not about the yield per element, it's about the yield over the area in relation to the energy that you've used to create that yield. A lot of systems end up producing on their own with the minimum amount of energy input. In fact, they will produce over time quite often without any energy input and no maintenance at all. It just takes a very small amount of energy to keep them running and just a very specific understanding. So, instead of 100 hours of meaningless work and 1 hour's thinking, you're more likely in a permaculture system to be spending 100 hours of meaningful thinking and 1 hour of also meaningful work. A much more efficient system and a much more pleasurable system to be working amongst and living amongst. This is how we'll stabilise society. This is how we'll stabilise the world's environments, by supplying our needs in a way that creates a sustainable world.